The executive parking garage at Meridian Financial Group was nearly empty at 9:47 p.m., the fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows across the concrete pillars. Jennifer Walsh, CEO of the third-largest investment firm in Chicago, walked briskly toward her Mercedes, her heels echoing in the cavernous space. At 38, she'd shattered every glass ceiling in her path, building a reputation as the most formidable dealmaker in the industry. Tonight, she'd just closed a $2 billion merger that would reshape the financial landscape. She should have felt triumphant. Instead, exhaustion pressed down on her shoulders like a physical weight. She didn't notice the two figures emerge from behind a concrete pillar until it was too late. "Ms. Walsh," a voice called out, sharp and aggressive, "we need to talk." Jennifer's hand instinctively moved toward her phone, but she forced herself to stay calm, turning to face them. Two men in expensive suits, faces twisted with barely contained rage. She recognized them immediately. Derek Paulson and Marcus Vance, senior executives from Titanium Capital, the company she'd just outmaneuvered in the merger deal. "Gentlemen," she said evenly, though her heart hammered against her ribs, "this is neither the time nor the place. If you want to discuss business, call my assistant and schedule a meeting." "You cost us everything," Derek snarled, stepping closer. His breath reeked of whiskey. 3 years of work, gone because you played dirty. You leaked our bid to the board. Don't even try to deny it." Jennifer's jaw tightened. "I did no such thing. I presented a better offer with better terms. That's called competition, not sabotage." "Liar," Marcus spat, moving to block her path to the car. "You think you can just walk all over people because you're the great Jennifer Walsh? You think being a woman makes you untouchable? We know what you did, and we're going to make sure everyone else knows too." "You're going to retract that deal," Derek continued, his voice low and menacing. "You're going to call the board tomorrow and tell them you've discovered conflicts of interest. You're going to step aside and let Titanium take the merger." Jennifer's blood turned to ice, but she kept her expression neutral. "That's not going to happen. Now move aside, or I'm calling security." "Security?" Marcus laughed bitterly, glancing around the empty garage. "Look around, Jennifer. It's just us, and you're going to listen to what we have to say." Derek pulled out his phone, scrolling to something, then thrust it toward her face. "See this? Emails, documents, transaction records, all fabricated, of course, but very convincing. Evidence that you've been engaged in insider trading for the past 2 years. One phone call to the SEC, one anonymous tip to the press, and your career is finished. Your reputation destroyed. Everything you've built, gone." Jennifer's stomach lurched, but she forced herself to maintain eye contact. "Blackmail is a federal crime. You're making a serious mistake." "No, you made the mistake," Marcus growled, stepping even closer. "You thought you could play with the big boys and walk away clean. But we own people at the SEC. We own journalists. We can make this stick, at least long enough to ruin you. Even if you're eventually cleared, the damage will be permanent. No one trusts a CEO under investigation." The walls seemed to close in around Jennifer. She'd faced hostile takeovers, aggressive competitors, and boardroom coups, but she'd never been physically cornered like this, threatened in the darkness of an empty garage. Her hand moved slowly toward her purse, toward her phone. "I wouldn't do that," Derek said, noticing the movement. "Just hear us out. Be reasonable. You retract the deal, we delete the evidence, and everyone walks away happy. You think I'm going to surrender years of work because you forged some documents?" Jennifer's voice was steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. "You've clearly underestimated who you're dealing with. And you're underestimating how far we're willing to go," Marcus said coldly. "Your little victory today cost my investors $400 million. Do you really think they're going to let that slide? Do you think they care about playing fair?" The threat hung in the air, ugly and unmistakable. Jennifer's mind raced, calculating exits, options, defensive strategies. She was strong, capable, but these men were larger, desperate, and potentially dangerous. Her phone was in her purse, but reaching for it might escalate the situation. The security office was 3 floors up. The garage exit was blocked by Marcus's position. "Last chance, Jennifer," Derek said, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow felt more threatening than shouting. "Make the call tomorrow, or we make ours." "I think the lady said no." The voice came from behind the men, calm and measured, carrying the quiet authority of someone used to being obeyed. All 3 turned to see a man emerging from the shadows near the elevator bank, pushing a maintenance cart loaded with cleaning supplies. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing navy blue work coveralls with Meridian Building Services stitched across the chest. His face was weathered but kind, with lines around his eyes that suggested someone who smiled often but wasn't smiling now. "This doesn't concern you," Marcus snapped, his face flushing. "Get back to mopping floors." The man didn't flinch, continuing his steady approach. "Actually, it does concern me. I'm building security, second shift. Name's David Porter, and I've been watching the garage cameras for the past 5 minutes." He gestured toward a small security monitor mounted on his cart. "Everything you gentlemen said has been recorded and transmitted directly to the main security server and the Chicago Police Department's non-emergency line, which I called about 3 minutes ago." Derek's face went white. Marcus looked like he might be sick. "You're lying," Derek said, but his voice lacked conviction. David pulled out a radio and pressed the button. "Control, this is Porter. Situation in parking level B2 requires immediate police response. 2 male individuals engaged in threatening behavior and attempted blackmail. Subjects are still on scene." A crackle of static, then a woman's voice responded. "Copy that, Porter. Units are 2 minutes out. Stay safe." The blood drained from Marcus's face. "You have no idea what you've just done. Do you know who we are?" "Yeah," David said quietly, stepping between the 2 men and Jennifer, creating a physical barrier. "You're 2 guys who thought they could intimidate a woman in an empty garage. Thought nobody was watching. Thought you were above consequences." He looked them both in the eye, his expression hard. "I've got a daughter, 15 years old, smart as a whip, wants to be a lawyer. And I'm raising her in a world where men still think they can corner women in parking garages and threaten them into submission. So yeah, this concerns me very much." "This is insane," Derek stammered, backing away. "We were just having a conversation. Business discussion, nothing illegal." "Really?" David pulled a small notepad from his pocket. "Because I've got notes here about fabricated evidence, blackmail, threats to destroy someone's career, and what sounded very much like physical intimidation. The cameras don't lie, gentlemen. Neither does the audio feed." In the distance, sirens wailed, growing closer. Marcus looked at Derek with panic in his eyes, and both men started moving toward the garage exit. "I wouldn't run," David called after them. "Makes you look guilty. Plus, there are officers waiting at all the exits now." The 2 men froze, trapped. Jennifer watched the scene unfold, her heart still racing, but relief flooding through her. Within 2 minutes, 3 police cars pulled into the garage, lights flashing. Officers emerged, hands on their weapons, and David calmly walked them through what had happened, showing them the camera footage on his monitor. As Derek and Marcus were being questioned separately, one of the officers turned to Jennifer. "Ma'am, are you all right? Do you need medical attention?" Jennifer shook her head, finding her voice. "No, I'm okay. Thanks to him." She looked at David, who was giving his statement to another officer. It took another hour for the police to complete their investigation. Derek and Marcus were arrested and taken away in handcuffs, charged with attempted blackmail, making terroristic threats, and criminal harassment. The fabricated evidence on Derek's phone was seized as additional proof of their crimes. Finally, as the last police car pulled away, Jennifer found herself alone in the garage with David, who was packing up his maintenance cart. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been here." David shrugged, looking uncomfortable with the attention. "Just doing my job, ma'am. Right place, right time." "It was more than that," Jennifer insisted. "You put yourself at risk to help me. Those men could have been dangerous." "They were bullies," David said simply. "Bullies back down when someone stands up to them. Always have, always will." Jennifer studied him more carefully now. The confident bearing, the way he'd handled the situation with such calm efficiency. "You said you were building security, but you're pushing a maintenance cart." A slight smile crossed David's face. "Yeah. Well, life's complicated. I was Chicago PD for 12 years. Detective, actually. Got shot in the line of duty 3 years ago during a domestic violence call. Bullet lodged too close to my spine to remove safely. I can walk, I can work, but I can't pass the physical anymore. So I retired on partial disability." "I'm sorry," Jennifer said softly. "Don't be. It led me here. Being a cop was my identity for so long. Losing that badge felt like losing myself. But then I realized I could still help people, just differently. Building security isn't glamorous, but I make sure people get to their cars safely at night. I check on the folks working late. I see things others miss. Tonight, that mattered." Jennifer felt something shift in her chest. "You mentioned you have a daughter?" David's face lit up. "Emma. Best thing in my life. Her mother passed away 5 years ago. Cancer. It's just been the two of us since then. She's why I took this job, actually. Regular hours, decent benefits, allows me to be home for dinner every night and help with homework. She's everything. She's lucky to have you, Jennifer said. The way you talked about raising her in a better world. You meant it. Every word. David's expression turned serious. Look, Miss Walsh, I know who you are. Everyone in this building does. You're the CEO who took over when the company was failing and turned it around. You're the woman who donates millions to women's shelters and educational programs. You lead with integrity in an industry that doesn't always reward it. What those men tried to do tonight, it wasn't just about a merger. It was about punishing you for being successful while being a woman, and that's something I'll never tolerate. Jennifer felt tears prick her eyes for the first time all night. She'd built walls so high, armor so thick, always having to prove herself, always having to be twice as good to get half the credit. And this man, a security guard pushing a maintenance cart, saw her not as a target or a threat, but as a human being worthy of protection and respect. David, she said quietly, how would you like a different job? He looked surprised. Ma'am? I'm serious, my company needs a head of security. Someone who actually understands what safety means, who sees people instead of assets. Someone with your background, your instincts, your integrity. The pay would be 6 figures, full benefits, college fund for Emma. You'd be building and managing a department, setting protocols, training staff, making sure what happened tonight never happens to anyone in this building again. David stared at her, speechless. Ms. Walsh, I appreciate the offer, but I'm just a security guard with a disability. I'm not qualified for that kind of position. You're a decorated former detective who just prevented a serious crime through quick thinking and proper procedure, Jennifer corrected. You're a father raising a daughter alone while working full-time. You're someone who sees threats others miss and acts to protect people without hesitation. That's exactly who I need. She pulled a business card from her purse and wrote something on the back. This is my personal number. Think about it tonight. Talk to Emma. If you're interested, call me tomorrow. David took the card with shaking hands. I don't know what to say. Say you'll consider it. Jennifer smiled for the first time all night. And David, thank you for seeing me, for standing up, for being the kind of man your daughter will be proud to call her father. 6 weeks later, Jennifer stood in the newly renovated Security Operations Center at Meridian Financial Group, watching David train his staff. He'd accepted her offer, and in just over a month, he'd completely transformed the company's approach to safety and security. But more than that, he'd changed the culture. Employees felt seen, protected, valued. The story of what happened in the parking garage had spread through the company, though Jennifer had kept the details private. What people knew was that their CEO had been threatened, and a security officer had protected her. It sparked conversations about workplace safety, about believing women, about creating environments where everyone could feel secure. Derek Paulson and Marcus Vance were facing serious criminal charges. Their fabricated evidence had been traced back to an offshore operation they'd hired, which led to additional federal charges. Titanium Capital had publicly apologized and fired both men, though the damage to their reputation was severe. Emma Porter visited her father at work one day, and Jennifer made sure to meet her. The 15-year-old had her father's steady gaze and confident bearing, full of dreams about changing the world through law. Jennifer set up a mentorship program pairing Emma with attorneys in Meridian's legal department. Sometimes, late at night, when Jennifer worked late, she'd stop by the security center. David would be there, monitoring cameras, checking in with his team, making sure everyone in the building was safe. They'd talk about their days, their challenges, their hopes for the future. You know what I've realized? Jennifer told him one evening. I spent so many years proving I belonged in rooms full of powerful men, fighting to earn respect, to be taken seriously. But the person who truly saw my worth, who stood up when it mattered most, was someone those men would have dismissed without a second thought, someone they probably never even noticed. David smiled. We all have blind spots. The key is being willing to see when someone points them out. You did more than point it out, Jennifer said. You reminded me that strength isn't about standing alone. It's about having the courage to accept help, to value it, to build communities where we protect each other. 3 months later, at Meridian's annual shareholder meeting, Jennifer announced a new company initiative, comprehensive security training for all employees, expanded support programs for working parents, and a scholarship fund for children of building services staff. She told the story of that night in the parking garage, crediting David by name, explaining how one person's choice to act with integrity had transformed an entire organization's culture. The business press covered the story extensively. But what mattered more were the emails Jennifer received from employees, from other women in executive positions, from parents working multiple jobs to support their kids. Stories of feeling seen, feeling valued, feeling safer because one man chose to stand up when it would have been easier to walk away. David kept his old detective badge in his office, a reminder of who he'd been. But next to it sat a photo of Emma, and on his desk was a plaque Jennifer had given him. True strength protects the vulnerable. On the one-year anniversary of that night, Jennifer and David stood in the parking garage at the exact spot where everything had changed. The company had installed better lighting, more visible cameras, and emergency call buttons. But more importantly, they'd created a culture where people looked out for each other. "I've been thinking," Jennifer said, "about how close I came to handling that situation alone. Too proud to ask for help, too convinced I had to fight every battle myself." "And now?" David asked. "Now I know that the strongest thing I ever did was accept help from someone who offered it freely, expecting nothing in return." "You saved more than my safety that night, David. You saved my faith that there are still good people in the world who do the right thing simply because it's right." David was quiet for a moment, then said, "Emma asked me something the other day. She wanted to know if I was scared that night, confronting those men. And I told her the truth. I was terrified. But I was more scared of the world she'd grow up in if people like us kept walking past moments where we could make a difference." Jennifer nodded, understanding completely. They'd both learned that courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was choosing to act despite it. It was standing up for others even when it put you at risk. It was building the world you wanted to see, one brave choice at a time. In the end, what started as a threatening confrontation in a dark parking garage became a story about recognizing worth in unexpected places, about choosing integrity over convenience, about understanding that true leadership means creating safety for everyone, not just those at the top. And sometimes, the person who changes everything isn't the one with the most power or the biggest title. Sometimes it's a single father pushing a maintenance cart who sees someone in danger and decides that staying silent is not an option because he's building a better world for his daughter, one intervention at a time.